Hello everyone. I'm Dr. Aishwarya Joshi, your mentor and teacher for MRCP. On behalf of Study MRCP, I have come up with today's session, part of our YouTube series, Infections That Kill. We will be focusing majorly on a few infections which are for sure asked in your exam, and for sure 3 to 5 questions will be there from these topics. They are high yield. Reading the scenario is very important. Make sure that you know that every scenario requires only one reading, so make it thorough to save time. Go through the options till the end, even if you know the right answer. Make sure that you're analyzing whether they are asking the next step, next management step, next investigation of choice, gold standard investigation, confirmatory test, next step in treatment, and make sure that the vocabulary is very comprehensible and clear to you before you choose an answer. Let me start presenting my screen where you will be able to go through these high yield topics. Let's start infections that kill. These are the topics which fool MRCP candidates because of their mixed symptoms and presentation. They are infective endocarditis, tuberculosis, sepsis mimics. MRCP frequently tests infections which present without classical symptoms. Myself and my fellow doctors who have grown up and who have studied in Southeast Asia tend to answer everything which looks like B symptoms as tuberculosis. But when you're going for your final exam, remember to train yourself that tuberculosis should be the last answer because this is extremely rare in the UK. It is extremely rare than brucellosis, than aspergillosis, than leishmaniasis, than chronic malaria, because of immigrants. So tuberculosis should be your last answer and it should have a confirmatory basis, no empirical TB treatment. Common pitfalls: endocarditis coming without fever is possible, TB presenting as a systemic illness is possible, non infectious diseases mimicking sepsis is possible. Like in the last video, we looked at vasculitis where systemic signs were present. The key examination skill is to recognize the pattern, investigate the strategy, and you don't always have to have a perfect fit of symptoms for the diagnosis. Starting with infective endocarditis, it is the infection of the endocardial surface of the heart and affects the valves, and the organisms are Staph aureus, Streptococcus viridans, Enterococcus species. And the risk factors are prosthetic valves, IV drug abuse, congenital heart disease. IV drug use patient, there will be usually right-sided heart which is affected. Clinical features: fever, malaise, weight loss, night sweats. Just the B symptoms that we would see in tuberculosis. Just the B symptoms we would expect in any malignancy. So always look at the age of the patient, gender of the patient, exposure and history brought up of the patient, and the endemic area of patient's residence. The new signs would be development of a murmur which was not previously present and splenomegaly. Peripheral stigmata, Osler's nodes, GNV lesions, and splinter hemorrhages are characteristic of infective endocarditis. Suspicion should increase when you see there is unexplained stroke, could be cardioembolic, microscopic hematuria, persistent fever with negative cultures, raised inflammatory markers, and they may not be present with fever. Important complications are embolic stroke, glomerulonephritis, and heart failure. Diagnosis, we all know it's a Duke criteria, where major criteria of positive blood culture, evidence of endocardial involvement of echo would be present, and investigations done are 3 set of blood cultures, that is 3 different samples, and echocardiography. Coming to tuberculosis, It's a great mimicker. So that is why I have been nagging about this since the beginning. It may present as fever of unknown origin, chronic weight loss, lymphadenopathy, pleural effusion, lack of appetite, emaciation. It can present with diarrhea, abdominal pain, deformities in the hand, anything. Extrapulmonary TB is commonly asked in exam because that is more common than pulmonary TB in the UK. MRCP loves asking about TB meningitis. You should be able to differentiate it from bacterial, fungal, and viral meningitis. Pericardial tuberculosis, abdominal tuberculosis, spinal tuberculosis called a Pott's disease or Pott's spine. So it is a caseating necrotic type of biopsy finding will be present. Clues of extrapulmonary TB, chronic symptoms, raised ESR, lymphocyte predominant fluid, whichever fluid it must be, ascitic fluid, pleural fluid, CSF, these have very low yield for detection of CBNAT positivity in tuberculosis, but still we conduct this. Diagnostic clues, chest X-ray might have a lesion, sputum microscopy, gene expert PCR, and culture in Z and STAY. Findings would be caseating granulomas, lymphocytic effusion, and high ADA in the pleural fluid or even in the ascitic fluid in case of peritonitis. Or lymphadenopathy, the lymph node biopsy may be sent for ADA analysis. Coming to mimics of sepsis, there are several non-infectious disease mimics in sepsis. One is adrenal crisis, where there is low blood pressure, temperature might be present, dyselectrolytemia may be present. Thyroid storm, of course, it does not have hypotension, but it can have okay, let's take over this slide again. In sepsis mimics, several non-infectious diseases mimic sepsis. Example is adrenal crisis, where the adrenal gland may become hyperactive, leading to fever, hypertension, tachycardia, restlessness, urinary electrolyte changes. There could be thyroid storm, where there could be presence of heart failure, hypertension, tachycardia, excessive sweating. Pancreatitis, again, a severe pain with raised ESR, CRP, fever might be present. High levels of triglyceride is a hint towards pancreatitis. Or an individual who has history of alcoholism, tobacco chewing, smoking, obesity. Then there is pulmonary embolism, where the patient will have fever, yes, generalized body pain, tachycardia again, breathlessness. Then autoimmune conditions, which usually produce vasculitic features, pain features. MRCP usually tests these concepts, and it is important that you look at the history of the patient, age and gender of the patient, recent exposures, past exposures, drug history, any abortions in females, any kind of alternative therapies in females are important. So the key strategy is when the sepsis treatment fails, reconsider the diagnosis, whether the culture is negative, are inflammatory markers atypical, are there any endocrine clues? Something like the patient was taking medicines previously and has stopped. Red flags in sepsis mimics are persistent hypotension despite antibiotics, negative cultures, atypical lab abnormalities. For example, hyponatremia with hypotension can be a feature of adrenal crisis. Tachyarrhythmia with hyperthermia could be a feature of thyroid storm. So this is a table of clues. We need to rule out mimics of sepsis, and these are several non-infectious mimics. Important examples, adrenal crisis, wherein the patient might shut down his cardiovascular symptom, leading to hypotension, tachycardia, or even bradycardia, vomiting, high-grade fever. There is a possibility of thyroid storm, where there is hypertension, tachycardia, anxiety, diarrhea, Pancreatitis also presents as an abdominal emergency, mimicking abdominal sepsis, like uh, there might be severe abdominal pain, persistent vomiting, high-grade fever. And this high-grade fever or moderate-grade fever can occur in pulmonary embolism also, where the patient comes with or without chest pain with tachycardia. Again, autoimmune disease coming up as vasculitic phenomenon. And hence, it is always important to look for any background of the patient where there is a family history of disease, siblings suffering from certain diseases, where there has been recurrent infections in the past, history of pet exposure, look for the brought up of the patient, current endemicity of the patient, whether the patient has been taking any alternative medicines. If it is a female, look for history of abortions, how the periods have been. And all this will be there in your scenario in the exam with a bit confusing options, but I'm sure you'll be able to make it with a thorough revision. The key diagnostic strategy is to determine whether it really is sepsis. If the treatment fails, reconsider the diagnosis. Ask if the cultures are negative, whether inflammatory markers are atypical, and whether there are any endocrine clues. Even look if there were any drugs being taken previously, which have been stopped now. Red flags: persistent hypotension despite antibiotics, negative cultures, atypical lab abnormalities. Example: hyponatremia with hypotension is adrenal crisis, tachyarrhythmia with hypothermia, possible in thyroid stroke. So, clues to differentiate between different etiologies. In endocarditis, the onset is subacute with fever, murmur and emboli suspicion will be there, and blood cultures will come out positive. In tuberculosis, symptoms are chronic and progressive, variable temperature might be present, or there might be no fever at all. Weight loss is possible and mostly happens, and diagnosis is with PCR and culture. In other sepsis mimics, onset will be variable depending upon the underlying phenomena. Fever will be present, cultures will be negative, and investigations depend upon the suspected disease. So look for history, examination clues, blood cultures are important whenever fever is there, and do a targeted imaging. If no organism is identified, reconsider alternative diagnosis. Coming to questions, a 63-year-old man presents with fever, fatigue for 3 weeks. Examination shows splinter hemorrhages, systolic murmur, and microscopic hematuria. Although in exam, this will come as more of wordings with maybe just one or even two clinical features. The most appropriate investigation is what? So we know this is infective endocarditis, but what is the investigation we need to do? Of course, echocardiography, because this will directly show the vegetation growing in the endocardium. 29-year-old man presents with fever, night sweats, and weight loss. Chest X-ray shows bilateral hilar lymphadenopathy. Pleural fluid analysis is here below in the table. Protein level is high, cellular lymphocytic predominant, and ADA is elevated. Now, this similar picture is possible in autoimmune conditions as well, in sarcoidosis as well, and in tuberculosis as well. Okay, but weight loss and night sweats are more typical of tuberculosis. High ADA is typical of tuberculosis. If it was bacterial, then neutrophilic predominance would have been seen. 48-year-old woman presents with hypotension, fever, and confusion. She is initially treated for septic shock but does not improve. Blood culture remain negative. What is the most likely diagnosis? Now you know this is a septic shock mimic because of the features. They have given sodium values which is much lower and potassium is higher. One possibility is adrenal crisis, yes. Acute pancreatitis can occur because of CIAD. Septic shock again can cause CIAD. Pulmonary embolism also. But because he has failed treatment for septic shock, the next consideration looking into the electrolyte levels will be adrenal crisis because there is hypotension, hyponatremia, hyperkalemia, and poor response to antibiotics. A 56-year-old man presents with fever and acute stroke. MRI confirms multiple embolic infarcts. Blood cultures are growing Streptococcus viridans. What is the most likely underlying condition? There are multiple infarcts. Streptococcus viridans is the organism invading the bloodstream through dental procedures. Through prosthetic heart valves, the organism is Staph epidermidis. Even IV drug abuse, it is Staph epidermidis. Oral flora, viridans group is a common oral flora and it invades into the bloodstream during dental procedures. So the final polls are stroke with fever, think of endocarditis due to embolism. Chronic fever with weight loss, consider TB and malignancy. Before that, shock with negative culture, consider sepsis. I hope this session was helpful. And if there are any doubts, please feel free to drop your questions on the Telegram group. You can text me directly. You can add a comment to this video. We are there for you. With this, let me end the session.